Hey, what's up? Yeah, so this is going to be a 60-second video. This is going to be about the forced sterilizations that happen in California. First of all, I want to introduce you all to eugenics, which is this racist notion that certain people should procreate and have those genes within the gene pool. Sterilizations were practiced around the US. Here's a photo of the states that practiced it. And it's important to know that none of them had California beat in the way they would sterilize people. Drawing from this article, in 1909, California passes a forced sterilization law that would go unchallenged for a good amount of years. It went unchallenged for about 70 years. And I want to highlight that there were many victims of forced sterilization, which included African Americans and included poor whites. But for this video, I'm focusing on Latino or Mexican descent. And the reason I say California was one of the worst states on sterilization was because if you read here, you see that California did not even have to ask its patients for sterilization. So many of these things would go against the patient's wishes or without their awareness. And here's some articles because I know people on TikTok will be like, that's a lie. This is only part 1, so tune in for part 2. Hey, so this is part 2 on the eugenics and the forced sterilization of Mexican Americans and Latinos in the US, especially in California. And I'm only talking fast because there's a lot of information, but learning this shit is eating me up, man. Please go ahead and take a look at this because a set of recently accessed sterilization authorization reveals that Mexican origin patients were sterilized at elevated rates disproportionate to their share of the state population. Under California eugenics law, Mexican origin patients were pathologized as mentally defective and overly fecund in order to justify sterilization. Like, what? Just part of white America's way of saying, oh, we don't want you. And America would use the term unfit for this justification. And out of all 20,000 documented sterilizations, California performed 1/3 of that. And documented data gathered from 1920 to 1945 would show it would go on to show that Latino men were sterilized at a higher rate than non-Latino men. And the Latina women experienced it at an even more disproportionate risk of sterilization relative to non-Latinas. And it's important to know that the racial hierarchy constructed was that whites were superior, along with class hierarchies and prejudices against people with disabilities shaped who would be deemed fit and unfit in California's eugenics program.
As early as 1909, forced sterilizations took place in California, and the state was the national leader in the number of sterilization procedures performed without consent. An estimated 20,000 sterilizations took place in state institutions, making up 1/3 of the total number performed in the country. These sterilizations targeted women with Spanish surnames, many of Mexican descent. A 2015 documentary film, No Mas Bebés, follows a class action lawsuit representing hundreds of mostly Mexican women who say they were sterilized without informed consent shortly after giving birth in Los Angeles public hospitals.